Hey, what's up? My name is colbysharp, fifth grade teacher in Michigan. Welcome to my channel. We try to help kids fall in love with reading, and I'm making today a video I haven't made in a while, but one of my favorite videos to make, and it is the books my students are reading. And I'll just basically will tell you about each one of these books. I asked them to leave the book that they're reading as they headed to lunch on their desk, because we're gonna read right when they come back. I'm gonna go through it all. And the reason that I'm doing it today is because we kind of had a landmark this week. We just crossed the 100th school day of the year, which is super exciting. So I'm excited to share with you all of the books my lovely students are reading. First up, we have the Babysitter's Club graphic novel, book 9, always popular series. Probably don't need to tell you much about it. You've probably heard of it. You've probably read it. These books are amazing. And started with a few that Raina Telgemeier did the illustrations for, and we have moved on to just a bunch of really, really amazing illustrators getting a chance to show their chops in these awesome books. Next up, Tiger Rising. So exciting to see a student reading this. It's been a minute. Obviously, Kate DiCamilo's books are often very popular in the 5th grade, but not so much this one, at least recently. What I did was I showed the movie trailer. So Tiger Rising movie is about to come out, or it's already out. I can't remember, but we watched the trailer in class and it got kids pretty excited. So exciting to see some of my students devouring this book. One of my students devouring this book, and hopefully it spreads to many readers. Next up, one of the most popular books in my classroom, if not the most popular, definitely the most popular novel in verse this year, Alone, Megan Freeman's beautiful book, the book that I would have loved as a kid. Oh, if I could have read this book after Hatchet when I was 10, my heart would have been so happy. Alone, so good. If you haven't read it, this novel in verse, one of the best. Next up, a book, I don't know about you, but a lot of times you'll have these books that are popular in your class, and maybe there's a couple years where they're not, and then they make like this, like they get like the second life. And I recently book talked Kate Messner's All the Answers, and one of my students read it and loved it. Said it's the best book she's read all year, and now her good friend is reading it, and she's almost done. So it's so exciting to see this happening in my classroom, and we love Kate's books. Speaking of Kate's books, another one of my students who's trying to read more nonfiction is reading Tracking Tortoises, which Kate wrote, the story, Mission to Save a Galapagos Giant, and her son Jake did the picture. So I just picture Kate and Jake in the Galapagos Island, on the Galapagos Islands, taking pictures, learning, and getting ready to write this book. But so exciting to see this one. This is the first reader that I've had this year read Tracking Tortoises, and he seems really into it. When he started reading it, I actually gave him Jason Chin's Galapagos book to kind of give him some history and some just some information that he could have in his brain as he learned more about the area. Next up, who was Ernest Shackleton? One of my kids is like, Mr. Sharp, I need to read some biographies, but I need one that's like Hatchet or a survival story. Like, all right. So I bought this. I used to have it, but I couldn't find it. So I bought another copy of this. Who was Ernest Shackleton? He read it in a day. And loved it. Now another kid's reading it. Yes. Next up, Wings of Fire graphic novel, book 4. My student is so excited. We just went to the library this morning, and he was like so excited to see this in our school library. He's like, Mr. Sharp, I've been waiting for this one for so long. Like when kids say for so long, you know, they've only been alive for like 10 years. But anyways, next up, The Collector. Isn't that terrifying? I don't read scary books, but my 5th graders do, and they love it. They love these K.R. Alexander books, and the covers are haunting. Too scary for me. I don't know this one, Dragon Slayer Academy, Revenge of the Dragon Lady. Looks like a fun chapter book series. So this one was also picked up at the library. Awesome. Wild River, this student recently finished Wildfire. She told me, I read Wildfire in a day. Now she's reading Wild River. Yes. Book talks work. We had a Wildfire was book talked. Now it's becoming very popular, and kids are moving around to now reading Wild River. Exciting. I book talked the Mr. Wolf's Class books this week. I talked with Aaron Steinke for the Yarn podcast episode coming soon about the new one in the series. And so I brought the Aaron Steinke tub to the carpet this week and just kind of went through them all and told the kids about it. It was really fun. And if you haven't read these graphic novels, you're missing out. So good. Next up, new from here. I love this book. My daughter loved this book. And I have a 5th grader reading and seems to really love this book, which it's such an important book and a beautiful book. Kelly Yang did an amazing job. You get a chance to see like the pandemic, like the beginning stages of the pandemic on a group of 3 siblings, and what it was like for them going from Hong Kong to the United States and how they were treated and some different things. It's a really, really good book. Next up, you may have heard of it. We talked about it a little bit ago. Alone, Megan Freeman, so good. Yay, multiple readers. We actually have been reading this so much, and I've been talking about it a lot. Megan actually was kind enough to send us a couple copies of the book, which is exciting because the kids wanted to read it, and someone was always reading it. So now we have multiple kids reading it. A Matter of Time, Alice Through the Looking Glass. A student just checked this out from the library, and what I love is they wanted to check this out in the library because in Fish in a Tree, Linda Mullally Hunt's Fish in a Tree, which is our current read aloud, she talks about Alice in Wonderland a lot and how she used to read it with her dad. I think it was her dad or her grandpa. And I love that that made her think to check this out. All right. Next up, we have Out of My Heart. I'll talk about it in a second because another kid's reading it. Wimpy Kid. This kid is, this is the third one. He's making his way through Wimpy Kid. I'm like, oh, you're reading him again? He's like, no, I never read him. Is that amazing? A fifth grader who's read all the graphic novels, a ton of graphic novels, loves them, but hasn't read Wimpy Kid. So I don't know. I just thought that was cool that he's discovering it. Out of My Heart. Out of My Heart? Yes, we read aloud Out of My Mind. They loved it. A kid read Out of My Heart, loved it. Now 2 kids are reading Out of My Heart, which I love that. My daughter at home, not that I have a daughter at school right now, my daughter is reading Out of My Mind right now, which makes me happy too. Book talked it. So 2 kids reading Out of My Heart, and great reviews. I haven't read it yet because I finished Out of My Mind like when it was coming out, and it's just been in the hands of the children since then. Origami Yoda series, we read this book aloud, and then the kid reading this read the rest of the series, starting with Darth Paper, but he had not read Origami Yoda on his own, so he's reading Origami Yoda now. He's going back to the beginning. Lifeboat 12, if you haven't read this, it's a really fascinating historical fiction novel and verse about these kids from England who get sent to Canada during World War II for safety purposes, like on a cruise ship, like just to get them out of the country so they're not bombed and all that. And then the boat gets attacked that they're on, and they have to survive in a lifeboat. Really, really good. Wolf Hollow. I haven't had a fifth grader read this in a while, but it was book talked in the library by Miss Ott, and her book talks are like gold. So love seeing Wolf Hollow being read. Very exciting. Ryder Wolfson. Margie Culver introduced my kids to this series. And then last couple years it hadn't been read, but this year it's become popular again. And this one was, we did a book pass where kids kind of like bounced around to different stations to kind of preview some books. And this one got picked up. Made me really happy. A couple other kids have been reading it this year. And Hugo Cabret. We've been studying the Caldecott Medal. And down in the library, I showed kids that this one, a Caldecott Medal. I'm like, that's a lot different than all the books that have won Caldecott Medals. I'm like, I know. Anyone want to read it? And one of my kids is. So super exciting, super fun. These are the books my students are reading. Holy smokes, they've grown this year. Let me know down in the comments. Well, what are your kids reading? Are they reading anything good? Anything awesome? Any popular series? Popular authors? Any books making a comeback? Let me know down in the comments. My name is Colby Sharp. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you have an awesome-tastic